welcome to a nonsensical edition of ARG Presents. I'm your good buddy, your good pal, your even-keeled friend, Amigo Aaron, joined by a man that doesn't and hasn't ever made a lick of sense. I give you the Brent.
Hey, everybody!
What a goof.
Woo, woo, woo. I'm inspired by my game this week, Aaron.
You are?
Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo.
Yeah. Wow, you'll find out why here in a minute. So, if you're one of the few, the precious few that watched us spin the wheel and make the deal last week.
Thank both of you.
Yes, we appreciate you. We did spin this sucker. We made the deal. And this week, we're going to be playing BAM, games that make absolutely no sense. That doesn't make no sense, Brent.
Nope.
You know, I don't remember. Do you remember who suggested this category? What'd you get out from behind there? You make no sense either. Who suggested this? Do you remember?
It was me.
Oh, God. How apropos, eh?
I had a double.
I wasn't sure what this meant, if I'm honest. And I'm still not 100% sure, so give me the vision behind this.
There are a lot of games out there, Aaron, that you start playing and you're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
All right? And I wanted to take and highlight those games to the masses. It needed to be done.
Did it?
Yeah, well, no. But it's done. It's going to be done now.
Did we do one of yours last week, too?
Yes.
And that didn't make no sense either.
Not at
Clearly.
all.
So I feel another winner on our hands.
I want to mention real quick.
Yeah.
You have one more week, because I know a lot of people missed last episode. It's sad. We are having a high score challenge on one of those games from last week, Aaron.
You mean Shay's Maxim ZX?
That's the one.
The mispronounced special?
And we are going to give a RetroRewind.ca gift certificate to whoever gets the high score. You can send those through email. You can send them on our Discord. Just shoot us a picture of your high score. We're getting some entries now. It's going to be a tough game to get ahead of. But if you're interested, you got one more week to get it in as of filming today.
Yeah, so you got time. I guess next Sunday is the cutoff. Then.
That's correct.
So take care of business. And it's a great game, too, by the way. And we want to thank Happy and Paul for giving those games to us last week to talk about, and also to feature us in the games. Very nice. Now, getting back to this wacky category. I had a few things in mind that I almost picked, by the way, before I ultimately picked what I did.
Right.
But I wasn't sure what qualified as a game that made no sense. Because most games make some sense to me. But I almost picked, and the only reason I didn't pick it was because I felt it was too new, believe it or not, was the Goat Simulator game. Would that have qualified?
That would have absolutely qualified.
Have you played that game, the Goat Simulator?
I have dabbled in it, yes.
That is one wacky game, the Brent.
Yeah.
Did you have anything on your almost made it list, but that didn't quite get there?
Well, I mean, you've got some really wacky shooters out there.
Yeah.
I had one that was a Twinkle Star Sprite. The game itself, I guess, is not wacky, but it's the gameplay elements, what the game is. It's a shooter puzzler.
Okay.
I mean,
wacky.
That's pretty wacky, right?
Yeah. So games that make no sense are wacky games.
Well, no, it doesn't have to be a wacky game. It's games that are just so out there, so like scratch your head at the end of the day that you have to double take when you see them or hear about them.
Yeah. Well, there aren't that many of these. I'd say Calamari Damachi would be on the list. That's pretty wacky, right?
Yeah, that's up there.
Can you think of anything else that jumps out at you?
Well, there's we've done a couple just wacky games.
Yeah.
In general, but you know, it's such a personal preference. This really allowed us to look deep and say, you know what, these are the games that are wacky to us.
Yeah. Well. There you go. Let's just get into it. I mean, they're wacky. You might just go for it.
All right.
Enough dilly-dallying. So I'll go ahead and I will lead the dance this week. So really, it took me a while. This is another week where I had to sit around thinking to myself, what is a wacky game? And like I said, I thought about the Goat Simulator. I thought of a couple other nutty games. The Calamari was one. I couldn't remember if we'd done that. I know Boats covered it before. So I thought, well, I'm going to cover something I know we haven't covered because I've never played it. But I've heard about it. I've heard about it for a long time. And so I went with BAM. It's Wario ware Inc. Mega Mini Games, Brent.
Yes.
I'm guessing you've played this one at some point in the past.
Yep. and many of its sequels.
This is for the Nintendo Gameboy Advance.
Yes.
Which I never had one of these. I know you had one. So this was published by Nintendo America and developed by Nintendo R&D 1, the Brent. Released in the States here somewhere between May 21st and May 26th. I saw both dates, 2003. This also got a 3DS release, and it came back on the Virtual Console and the Wii U.
Yes.
This can be played single player for the majority of it, but there are some multiplayer parts as well.
It's a single player game.
And now get this. Whenever Nintendo R&D comes around, these guys, newsflash, not hacks.
But no, they've been around. They've done a few things.
I picked the top 3 guys because an enormous list of guys worked this, and I'll get to why.
Yeah.
The producer of this was Takahiro Zushi. He's done tons and tons of producer work, including all the Wario games, the Wario wares games, a bunch of Pokemon games, Metroid Fusion, Fire Emblem, Super Smash Brothers. He's been around the block. The chief director on this was Hirofumi Matsuoka, who's worked on Super Metroid. Enough said. He was the chief director. He was the designer of Super Metroid. He also worked on the Wario ware games, and he was the producer of Mario Paint. So
why not?
I'm saying these are famous, iconic titles.
Oh yeah.
It's not like this guy worked on Urban Yeti. Okay, is my point.
See, that would have been a perfect.
The chief concept guy on this was Koichi Kawamoto. He designed all the Warios. He also did Legend of Zelda 4 Swords. Pretty good.
Yeah,
it's got a good rep. He was responsible for working on the Brain Ages games. You ever played those?
I have.
Play them more, if you know what I mean. You need to work. And he also worked on a couple of the Super Smash Brother games. So, and I know people love the Smash Brothers.
They're good
so there you go. So, what kind of crazy game is this that would require these elite guys to work on it? Well, it's crazy, all right. So what you've got here is a game of mini games, but there's a story behind it, and what a story you've got. So this is I'm gonna summarize this story as best I can. So if you're not familiar with Wario, he's like the evil anti-Mario, but he's also it reminds me of me, actually. I have a little bit of Wario in me. So Wario's a big tubby Mario evil version. He's sitting on his couch back in his pad, and he sees a report on TV about a video game that's made tons of money.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Wario wants lots of money.
Yeah.
And so he thinks he could get into making games. So he gets on his motorcycle and goes and buys a computer. And this is all lovingly crafted in the dopiest way you've ever seen. He goes down and buys a computer on his motorbike. He goes back to the house, and then he's like, he starts his own company, right? And so he's like, okay, I'm going to design this game. And it's boring. So he just calls up all of his buddies, and he's like, yeah, make me games, but I don't want to pay anything for them. And so
he doesn't tell him he doesn't want to pay anything for him yet.
Yeah, but he doesn't want to pay anything for him, so he gets all his buddies to do games. That's basically the concept of this game. Now, when you play Wario, you are tasked with defeating like certain levels in certain order. They branched this game out into a storyline, believe it or not, that's loosely tied together by the overarching theme that Wario's making a video game to sell.
Right.
Okay, that's all. That's really all you need to know. So, what does that mean to you, the person playing the game? Well, what that means is you're going to be tasked with trying out these games that are coming from all these various producers of games. The game stretches out in a chart, basically, like a box chart. You go up, you finish one stage, you go to the next stage, and eventually get to a point where you can pick which stage you want to, although inevitably you'll have to play them all, and you move forward. I want to talk about, before I get too deep into the game itself, I want to talk about the art style and the audio and stuff in this thing. You know, I'm one of these guys, I kind of like pretty good art. You know, I like, especially animated stuff, I like it to be pretty tight.
Okay.
But in the Wario world, the art in it, I've got to say, it's really good. And it's because it's super stylized.
Yes.
In a way that like you can't, like only guys at Nintendo that have the kind of jack they've got can pull this off. And I was thinking to myself, and this isn't a knock, well, it sort of is. I played a lot of games on the Amiga, all right? And I'm telling you right now, they never had a character ever as a lead character in any game with as much personality and fun as Wario. This guy's a big fat idiot. He's a jerk. He's perpetually amused with his own antics. You know, I mean, it
really is you.
It just shows him at the pad, like occasionally just doing dumb crap. He's watching TV. He's exercising. He's riding his motorcycle. Him using the computer. It's all ludicrous. It doesn't mean anything. There's nothing. I mean, you watch it, you're like, okay, but I mean, it's just done in a way that is amusing. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, and I agree.
And the touches they have in this game, they do a good job throughout the game of mixing up the art style. Like a lot of the art style is just this big bubbly kind of like balloony, cartoony graphics. But occasionally they'll slip in a real nice piece of art, or they'll put in some digitized background. It's not even that well done, and then they'll overlay stuff over it. But it keeps you. You don't get bored with the art style. They're perpetually changing the perspectives of what's happening. Also, in a lot of games, like we play a lot of games that have mini games in it because of stuff on the Wii and whatnot, and a lot of times they're delivered in sort of this antiseptic way. Like in this game, you flow into the mini game sections, and you don't even know they're coming. That's what makes it kind of fun. There's a section, for example, where you're watching these guys ride around in a taxi, and it looks like this big long cutscene, and all of a sudden you start playing games because you're affected how the taxi goes. There's a scene where this chick's getting chased by the cops on her way to work. It's just you're all of a sudden the mini games just start, and they're integrated. They're not really part of the scene you're seeing, but they're integrated in such a way that the act, whenever you succeed, it helps the scene along. Yeah. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely.
And so it really is brilliant. So just the stuff around the cutscenes or around the mini games is great. I want to get that off my chest right now. Awesome, and the music's good. This is not like
it's okay.
Yeah, but I mean, it perfectly fits this.
It does fit the game.
It perfectly fits.
I would say the music is actually the weakest part of this.
Well,
game.
But I mean, it's still
the audio in total.
Well, there's a reason for that actually. So let's get into it proper here. Wario, as it goes through, like I said, he calls his buddies up. So the first thing you do is beat Wario's mini games. Now you go into this by Wario jumps up near him at a trampoline and lands in a boombox, and then all of his games start spewing out at you, and you have to play them. The games that you play in this, there's hundreds of them. There's 213 micro games in this, but that's astounding that you think about it.
Is that including the difficulty switches?
That's
it has to.
Yeah, that's 213 micro games split over 9 stages. Okay. Now, in design, I was reading about the design of this. This game sprung from another game they'd worked on that had these micro games, and they thought this was a really good concept. And so what they started doing at Nintendo R&D 1 is they would have people, they had a desk there, and people would come up with like with sticky paper, and just and stick ideas on this desk. So this thing was covered with ideas. They'd come in and look through the ideas, and they would say, okay, this would be a good one, this wouldn't. And anything they said, anything that was too like culturally different from like in Japan, they wanted something that was universally known. So they went with stuff, and I think for the most part, the ones I saw, there weren't anything to I didn't fully understand. I knew what they were doing for the most part, and so they took all these ideas, and that's why when you look down the cast of who worked on this, it's like 4 million people because they just took. This game had a rep at R&D 1 where people were like, oh man, that's the desk where they're putting all the ideas. They'll take anything from anybody. This is brilliant art, game design for a game like this. So they took the best couple hundred of these things, and they put them in a game. Some of these mini games are as simple as jumping over something or catching something, but they're also wacky. Some of them involve stuff like you have to angle a finger to pick a nose, for example, or you have to stop a ball from going in a net or sink a basketball, stuff like that. Some of them get a lot more wacky, and as you go through the game, you come to different stages that are themed, so you can pick the themes. Like the first 3 themes you can pick one was science fiction, and one was Nintendo games,
and one was sports.
And sports, and I thought the Nintendo game one was great because you're playing snippets of Nintendo games throughout the, and even stuff that isn't like a game. There's one where you're controlling Rob the robot, and he's got to use his little claw to grab stuff.
Yeah, and it should be stated, these aren't 3-4 minute games. These are almost all of them are less than 10 seconds.
Oh yeah. Listen, I have played a Wario ware game past this one, so I sort of knew what to expect, but not the first one. But this concept, I remember when I first heard about it, I was like, this sounds horrible and dumb. Because who wants to play a 10-second game? Well, no one wants to play a 10-second game, but they want to play a couple 100 10-second games. And what they do with the concept of this, and I'll give you an example. There's a level where you are playing Donkey Kong. You've got to jump a barrel, right? That's all you got to do, jump one barrel. Well, as the game goes on, that might come back, and you have to jump a couple barrels, or it might be faster. There's a game where you're a guy on a scooter. You're avoiding someone throwing dynamite off in the distance. The first time you have to avoid one dynamite. The second time it comes around, you may have to avoid 4 dynamites or 3 dynamites. And so it gives you a natural progression in the game for how stuff goes. Now, I mentioned that Wario didn't want to make these games because he's lazy, so he calls up his buddies. His buddies are great, the ones I saw anyway. I didn't get all the way through the game, but I saw a lot of them. He's got this guy who's his disco buddy.
Yeah.
I love this guy because his cutscene is him walking to the club. He's got this deep voice, and he gets in the club, and then he starts dancing. He's on one of those flash and disco floors, and he's dancing. He does all these moves, and he's got this big afro. And at one point, he takes his hands and picks the whole afro up and puts it back on his head. Then he holds up his flip phone and flips it, and that's when the mini games start. Because you're playing, and they're all you're not playing on a flip phone. They're not really, but I mean, your wins and losses come up on the cell phone, and the way that they do your failures on this is like you get like so many failures, and they're listed like in the case of the phone, it'll be like a battery charge levels on the phone. Every time you die, you lose a battery charge level. When you're in a taxi, he's got little doodads hanging from the front of his car, and that tells you how many lives you've got left. You can lose this many more before the game's over. And the games let you, at least as far as I got into it, the games let you start from where the stage that you failed at.
Yeah.
That's good. Once you go into this game for a while, after you play each of these sections, you'll end up having a boss battle. And the boss battles are just like mini games that last slightly longer. You have to do something to accomplish something.
Slightly more complicated mechanics, usually.
For example, I think the first one one of the first two was a Punch-Out clone.
Yeah.
Where you had to basically duck and punch. That was it. You had to punch a guy like 3 times. And you win. Even those boss battles aren't real. The ones I got to weren't super hard either.
No.
The funny thing about this is nothing is really super hard, but it catches you off guard.
Yeah.
And you don't know what to do. And the games are so radically different that you're always on edge. And then something else that they do in this game, which is absolutely brilliant, is they falsely put you under pressure. Like as you start playing the game, and this is something that was put in on purpose, right? Because it gives you the feeling that like, okay, now we're really going into the lightning round because the music speeds up and everything speeds up. But really nothing changes. It's still the same mini game, but it puts you in the frame of mind like that you've got to hurry.
Yeah. Which
is smart. Something else they do in terms of the mini games and the scene that they're based in is that the mini games will affect stuff like the music and the speed of the cut scenes. For example, when you're on the disco scene, the better you do, the faster the disco music gets, the more that the lights are flashing. When you're in the taxi, there's a great tune playing in the taxi, and the tune sounds better and faster the further you go. But when you screw up, the tune slows down, it gets all slurred, and the guy gets mad at you. So I thought that was real. It was really, really good.
It's clever.
Clever. I mean, like I said, it was a good idea to do it that way. Miyamoto had a hand in this, the famous Nintendo designer, and he, including the slogan "More, Shorter, Faster," which was the slogan in Japan, which I think. But I mean, he had a play in the overall way that the game flows, and you could he didn't do a whole lot of design work, but he did do that on the game, and they chose Wario. According to one of the employees, Wario was chosen as the game's protagonist as he is always doing stupid things and is really idiotic. That's why Wario was in the game. Have you beaten this? How far have you gotten in this? Give me your experiences on this.
I definitely didn't beat this one this week. I don't think I've beaten this particular one in the past. I've played several of these because there are several out there. Spanning many different consoles. And of course, when you make a sequel to a game like this, it has to be more of the same while being completely different, because you can reuse some of the mini games, right? But that's the whole point of getting a sequel, is to get more mini games and stranger and all that stuff. And I've never owned a WarioWare game, but I've had a lot of friends that really enjoyed them, and I've played them to completion on I believe the DS one. This do you want me to go on what I think about this game?
Sure, I've got a little bit more, but go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. You seem like you don't like it, which I can't believe. I'm torn, Aaron. I'm really torn on this. Yeah, I'm surprised, because you're a Nintendo boy.
No, well, I certainly was in my youth. I like WarioWare. I like that they have these over-the-top scenes, great visuals, great art style, okay music. The music definitely got better in later systems. My problem with WarioWare games is when you play them the first time, the difficulty of the game is figuring out what the mini game wants you to do. It will put you in a situation, and it's so high speed, and you have to figure out, like, if you've got a finger and a nose, are you supposed to put the finger in the nose, or are you supposed to not put the finger in the nose? If there's a cup and people running around underneath it, are you controlling the people, or are you controlling the cup? Do you want to get the people in the cup, or do you want to avoid the cup? And the game is never unfair. It always tries to explain what it wants you to do. For example, for the cup one, it will say escape, right? So if you can think fast enough, you know that you're the people and you don't want to get caught by the cup. But it's so lightning fast that that's the challenge of the game. That's the beauty of the game. When you replay these games, though, some people think these have incredible replayability because they're so fast. They're so play for 5 minutes, put it away. I can't agree with that. I think the fun is trying to figure out the mini games, and once you've done that, once you've gotten through a few of them, you know what you're supposed to do. And for me, that really kills the replay value on these. That's why I've never picked one up. I've played them on long bus trips. I've played them, sitting around, killing 10, 15 minutes. The whole game's an hour. You can get through the entire game, beginning to end. I mean, if you know what's going on, you can get to the whole game, beginning to end, in an hour. So you've got an hour worth of footage, or an hour worth of game.
There's no way you're going to pick this up and just run through the game.
No, I'm right. You're right. I mean, it takes replaying
saying
some
it's
of the
got
missions.
an hour. I mean, you're going to get
It has an hour of gameplay. I'm not saying that it's going to take you an hour, but there's an hour worth of content here, and it's split up into 10 seconds. So that's how the game is done. It's on purpose. I just can't love a game that has so little replay value in my eyes. Is the core concept great? Yeah. Is it executed to perfection? Absolutely. The characters are fun. Everything is entertaining, and the mini games are enjoyable. Some of them are a little samey, but when you're talking about hundreds of games, you're going to have that. I just can't get past the replayability on something like this being so low. Elite Beat Mania is a game that's sort of in the same concept. It's not really.
Isn't that like a rhythm
It's more
dance
of a rhythm
thing?
game.
Yeah,
but what locks you into that is the music, right? What locks me into this is the game, the figuring out the games. And once you figure out the games, there's nothing to come back to. But I'm not hating on the game.
Sounds like some hate.
I'm not hating on the
Sounds
game.
like he's
I think
hating
the
on
game is awesome. If you've never played one, holy crap, you got to go find one and pick it up. But for me, this is just not something I'm going to spend my money on.
I can see where you're coming from. However, I think the games this isn't a cart you're going to play every day for the rest of your life. All right?
And games don't have to be that.
And you're not going to want to sit through all the little cutscenes stuff. You can skip them.
Yeah, you can
if you want every time. In fact, once you beat a stage, and once you beat whatever you've beaten in that stage, there's a block mode where you can just go and literally play individual games.
Yeah.
So you can go through and play each, like if there's a particular mini game you like, you can go play it as you go through the game.
It's not gonna happen.
Well, I mean, you could. I mean, there are some that are fun.
You might have a particular mini game that you want to show off to a friend. That's what that's
or
good
if
for.
you could also go replay the stages, and also they remix the stages.
Yeah.
As you go through,
and they make them harder, faster.
So there's replay ability there, but yes, there is a finite amount. This is one you could probably pick up, own it for a while, and if you just get tired of it and sell it or whatnot. You don't. But I mean, I think the concepts and stuff behind this are pretty fun, and also this sort of set this sort of style of game off.
Yeah.
That ended up getting picked up to a certain degree by several other outfits, including other Nintendo properties, and then you can even put stuff like the Rabbids games and stuff here. They're like more fleshed out versions of wacky things. But part of the fun of this is just having no idea what's coming. And that's what makes it a lot of fun. As you play through this, you also can unlock 2-player games. Those I didn't get to try any of those. That's an interesting concept to have 2 players on those. Have you tried any of the 2-player stuff?
I'm sure I have, but I can't recall them enough to talk about them. Because, like I said, I've had many buddies that have owned these.
You mentioned that the music in this and the sound effects you weren't too keen on.
Correct.
The sound effects and stuff came from another game, in their entirety. So you do hear some weird stuff, but I will say I like the music in this. It's specifically certain tunes I really enjoyed. I really like the song in the Taxi, for example. I thought it was really good.
But everything's it's pretty muddy.
Well, but I mean, it is also the GBA.
I know it's the GBA. I know.
Now that's not fair. You got to, and the GBA, by the way, I play this on the TV. And guess what? GBA games translate great to the TV.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So this one, you could emulate this one and not have a single bit of problem. It made it a lot of fun. So this game was pretty ballyhooed. It did real well. It was a very popular game, and actually 2 games were spun off of it. To make it like those Wario wares games.
Yes.
One of them was the paper airplane game. There was another one that was also spun off. This game won a ton of awards. It was GameSpot's #2 game of the year in 2003. It was the GBA game of the year in 2003. It was the most original game in 2003. It did well in 2003 with GameSpot. It got the Editor's Choice Award. It was the winner of the Edge Award. At the International Games Festival in 2004. Edge ranked at number 40 on its list of the 100 best games to play today. It was ranked 13th in EGM's greatest 200 video games of all time. That's amazing. 138 out of 200 games of all time. That's pretty high praise for the game.
This is definitely a game that transcends time. You can pick this up now, and it'd be just like you got it the day of release.
Yeah, it's fun. It's ageless. It didn't age. I mean, I think it plays great.
Yeah.
Even if you think you might get sick of it, if you haven't tried it, I recommend it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I looked up some reviews on this. Nintendo World Report gave this 9.5 out of 10. The Armchair Empire gave it 9.5 out of 10. GameSpot gave it 9.1 out of 10. The Underground Online, I forgot about those guys, gave it an A-. You get the point here. Lots of 91s and 9s out of 10s right down the line. So this game was what I would consider an upper tier GBA game in terms of scoring. Its reception.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a great game.
And of course, it spawned some other games of this sort that all the way up through the DS and the Wii. We had a couple of these Wario games that were like those mini games, and the Wii's are the perfect console for this sort of affair because you've got the extra additional benefits of that controller.
Yeah.
To play with. Did we get any Discord action on this, the Brent?
Yeah, we did.
Well, you want to read them?
I don't have it pulled up. That's really more of an Aaron thing.
Well, let me just say I've got 50 other things to do, so I'll go ahead and do that too.
That's okay. Good.
You lazy bum. I looked this up on eBay, by the way. This thing's going for actually pretty decent money. In your recollection, do GBA games, how do they fare? Do they hold their value, or what are they?
Well,
because I never had a GBA.
Something like this, a lot of people want the whole run of Wario ware games. So I would imagine that's why this has retained high value. Plus, like I said before, the game is really something you can pick up right now, play it, and it's the exact same feeling, same experience as if you would have bought it brand new back in the day.
So the card only. These are going for $40 to $60.
Yeah.
I was surprised for a GBA game.
Yeah, that's a little high.
And if you want a complete in box, I saw these going for $65 to $85 complete box. That's a lot of money. We did have one review of this from our own John Bodekar-Schaller. He says, this is one of the greatest games of all time. Everyone has a favorite arcade game based on one mechanic. Shoot the bad guy, avoid the enemies, jump the obstacle at the right time. WarioWare distills all of these games into seconds-long experiences. Although the games are about as short as they could possibly be, they each have unique music and interesting, humorous characters. The games are so fun, I frequently wish they'd go on for longer. But that adds to the addictive nature of the game. That's true. It's a shame Nintendo dropped the ball big time on the Switch version of this game, forcing you to play all the games with a limited number of characters with different abilities. The original was totally different characters in each game and is vastly superior. 10 out of 10.
Wow.
Have you played the Switch?
No, I haven't. I have not seen this on the Switch. I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah, so I have, hey, you screw with them until you break them, right?
That's the video game way.
That's usually the way you go. So that was a look at fully titled WarioWare Inc. Mega Microgames. And there's $ signs and exclamation points and colons and all sorts of stuff in there. I enjoyed it. I had a good time with this one, the Brent.
Sure.
So now you went, and you admittedly said this when you picked it. You went a completely different direction this week. What do you got?
Yeah. Now, your term of wacky and my term of wacky are clearly different.
Yeah.
As I delved deep into the abyss and pulled out Wrecked, a psychedelic adventure.
Yeah,
DOS.
you did. Yeah, you did do that.
And this is a game that we got to start way back in the beginning.
All right. Okay?
Let's talk about when this game actually started development.
All right.
There is a organization called Healthwise.
Yeah.
And they are...
Are you familiar with these guys before this game? Did you know who they were?
Oh, heck no.
Okay, I didn't know either. And I thought the way you said that, it's like, oh, there's this organization. I never heard of them.
So there's this organization called Healthwise, and their goal is to educate people in realms of health. You know, what's healthy to eat. You know, if you have symptoms, what it might be. And it's all of this free information. That's what they are. They're an information hub. Well, they saw video games were growing in popularity, and they wanted something that they could reach out and connect to kids with.
So they're a lot like Wario.
No.
They were sitting on their couch, and they're like, listen, we got to get some video games.
No, absolutely nothing like Wario. So they reached out to a company called KKOS, and this was the only thing that I could find that they had ever done. Okay?
Not surprised.
And they said, listen, we want to make a game that educates people about drug use.
Yeah.
And different things that can educate the kids about drug use on their kind of level, on their kind of platform. And KKOS said, okay, you know what? We're going to make this game. And they made Wrecked a psychedelic adventure. And
yes, they did.
And the press kind of got wind of this mid-development because this was originally made for the Amiga. And
no, I read that. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. And they ported it to DOS after the fact, before even the Amiga version was released. And they said, you know what? The press was like, what are you doing? like this was the same time when you've got all your violence in video games, and people are on that tirade of violence in video games make people more violent. And they thought, well, if you're showing all this drug use in video games, you're going to get all these kids hooked on drugs. And it started as just a small local newspaper, picked it up and said, guys, what are you doing? This isn't healthy. This isn't what we want to do. And then the Liverpool Echo, then it got onto Granada TV, and then Radio 1, which Radio 1 is a huge thing.
Well, Granada is
it's also huge, yeah. And it eventually ended up on the Sunday People, and that was it. All these press outlets are killing this, and they're killing HealthWise, and they're killing KKOS, and they're saying, what are you doing? You're teaching all of our kids about drug use, and you're going to get them all addicted to drugs. And it was a huge uproar, and no one ever could talk to HealthWise about it. No one ever got a hold of KKOS and said, what's this game about? And so HealthWise was like, listen, this is an education tool. This is supposed to teach kids the pluses and minuses of drug use, because that's what they were. Drugs aren't all bad. Drugs have some recreational or medical upsides, and that's what they were trying to teach kids. You can't.
They were?
Yeah, you can't just go around shooting up heroin.
But they're saying drugs had an upside?
Well, yeah, some drugs do.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a mixed message, isn't it?
No, that's a realistic message. That's a down-to-earth message, and that's what HealthWise was trying to put out there. And I support that, because they go into all drugs, all the way from caffeine up to heroin. So there's a lot of in between there. HealthWise saw all this bad press, and they were like, "We're screwed." They're a little organization by comparison to some of the Radio 1, and they were like, we've got to ixnay this. But the seeds were already sown. It was already out there. In fact, the Amiga version had 2 magazine reviews where it reviewed very poorly.
Yeah.
One magazine gave it a 25%, and the other magazine gave it a 40%.
So did this get formally released on the Amiga?
Well, I'm going to get onto that.
I'm sorry. I jumped the gun.
So while all this is happening, reviews are coming out. The reviews are very poor. While this is happening, they are already making the DOS version.
Yeah.
And the designer of the game, whose name is Fred, I cannot remember his last name. I do apologize. I had it here. But Fred's like, this was already in the works. The wheels were already rolling, and we had released a demo on DOS. And this was 1 year after the Amiga not release. So it was all kind of mangled up. And KKOS got hammered by HealthWise. It was the separation between the two companies was not a pleasant one, as said by the developer. So what you have is a Amiga game that was officially released, officially published, but never picked up by stores. So it never hit a shelf.
Really?
And then you've got a DOS game that was completed. The port was completed. Never had a box that I
couldn't
believe,
find one.
But did have a demo and did have a phone-in way of getting the game.
Which that's not uncommon at the time.
Yeah. So Fred says these games do exist. They were 100% complete.
Yeah.
And that if someone out there has a copy of the game, please let him know. He's desperate to find one. It's one of the rarest games in existence, apparently. He knows some did go out. He knows some did make it into people's hands, but he doesn't have a copy himself, nor does he have a beta version of the game. So what we are left with is a one-level playable DOS demo.
So you're telling me, though, that the Amiga version is exactly the same as the DOS version. That you can't get it?
He's correct. And he said the Amiga version is a vastly superior graphics.
Okay.
He gave an interview. If you dig deep enough, and let me tell you something, this was one of the hardest games to find information out on.
Where did you hear about this?
Sometimes you just hear about things, Aaron. So,
but of this makes me question what you do in your off time.
So, let's talk about what Wicked, a psychedelic adventure, is. It is a platformer where you play as Joe, a red-headed teen, if you will, who is tasked to get through a level of fire and flame and demons. I don't know how he got to this point.
Well, drugs.
But no, he hasn't taken any drugs yet.
But now wait a minute. He clearly knows how to take the drugs.
No, we're going to get into that.
All right.
So, you start a level, and you've got yin-yangs you can pick up for points. You've got...
how do those have anything to do with drugs?
Come on now.
I'm sorry.
You've got apples or tomatoes and oranges that you can pick up for health. And the health is a very Doom-esque health meter where you've got the kid's face and it slowly degrades and turns green into a skeleton. It's brutal. It's so brutal. But you try to traverse the level to get to the end. And of course the game is trying to promote this don't use drugs method. So when you pick up a drug, right? So you pick up some heroin, you have 3 choices. You can stash the drug, which means pocket it, use it later if you want. You can take the drug, which is this immediate taking of the drug, or you can get information about the drug. And when you get information about the drug, it actually pops up a whole window. It tells you if the drug is basically an upper or a downer. Some have side effects that the drug might be. Some find like alternatives, like heroin is sort of like morphine and that sort of information. But the information text box are very lacking. I mean, it really doesn't say a whole lot about the negative effects of like heroin.
I don't know.
It says it's addictive, but it doesn't go into.
But it's got screens and screens of information on drugs. I mean, it's tons of stuff.
Yeah, and there are a lot of drugs to pick up. I mean, I'm talking LSD, ecstasy, acid, shrooms, heroin, marijuana,
caffeine,
nicotine, alcohol. And you can pick up all these drugs, and when you take the drugs, it has an effect in the game. Sometimes it might turn the graphics black or white. Sometimes it might give this wavy effect to the screen. Or you might take LSD and start seeing these weird, colorful images everywhere. Each has its kind of its own effect. And sometimes you have to take the drug to advance. You have to take shrooms because it makes your character really tiny to get through a gap. So the game forces you.
So that's how you get through that.
The game forces you to take drugs, because that's what an education game about don't use drugs. Make the character use drugs.
I think steroids are or at least we're going to be part of it as well.
Yes, yeah, steroids are in there as well. What is wrong with the game? Brutally hard, brutally broken jumping physics, and just not a whole lot of fun. Once you shoot up some heroin, and speaking of shooting up some heroin,
my God, this show's went off the rails when I hear it. Once you shoot up some heroin, here's what you do next.
The animation for the kid taking the drugs,
it's good.
It's stupidly detailed.
Yeah, because he's doing this.
He's hitting it. and it's crazy. It's crazy time. And each drug has its own animation. So animation wise, of the main character, it's stupid good. But the game is overly hard. There's a lot of blind jumps.
The jumping and the moving are horrible.
They are really poorly done. Yeah. The drug effects are actually kind of neat.
I could never tell, like, when you took damage, because you jump into fire.
The face at the bottom.
But I mean, that's not enough. And also, what's the yin yangs? What's the purpose of collecting those exactly?
Points. They're just points.
Because it counts down, up and down when you get them. That's why I didn't understand.
Points. I don't know, man. Points. This game, Aaron, obviously it didn't sell well.
Yeah, or at all.
It did sell, but not anywhere that you want to. No numbers. We're talking single digit here. If you happen to have a copy of this digit, you please release it to the internet. There are people out there desperate to play the full version of this game. The one level that you're on, like I said, the jumping physics are so broken. Even on the easiest difficulty level, I could never make it to the end.
The controls stink.
The jumping is really bad.
You should also mention every time you die, it puts you at the beginning of the level.
Yes, no checkpoints in the game.
It's a big level.
It is. It's a fairly large level. Now, Aaron, did you know Wrecked was so popular that they were going to have a sequel?
No, I didn't know that.
Now,
how's that possible? Given the fact that it wasn't released.
The sequel is already in the works, and it was going to be all about alcoholism. Do you know the name of the sequel?
Trashed?
Sloushed.
Sloushed?
I'm dead serious. That's what the developer said. Sloshed. Yes, yeah. He didn't give the sub, but I'm going to guess a drunken adventure.
But there's booze in this, isn't there?
There is alcohol. Yes. What did you think of Wrecked, Aaron? The psychedelic adventure.
Well, I was puzzled. I mean, I had no idea what this was.
Right.
You know? And so and the only reason I know anything about it is because I was trying to find information. I was trying to find a box to put on the art. You know?
Right.
And so I had to delve in. I was like, man, what in God's name is this? And then I started playing it. Man, it stinks. It stinks. By the way, you can play this for free on the internet, the demo.
Yeah.
There's a webpage. It's in the Discord if you want to give this a whirl. And no one chose to give this a whirl, by the way. But listen, it's the drug effects in it. It's like a demo guy's dream because it's like all the demo tricks. Shaking the screen, making the screen smaller and bigger, making the screen wavy. Like, it's all the stuff you've seen demo producers do over the years.
Yeah.
So clearly, some of the guys that worked on this had cut their teeth in demo scene. I'm sure as I'm sitting here. Plus, if you watch the opening of the game, you see the KKOS guys they've graphic themselves up, cool guy style.
Yeah.
Anytime you put yourself in the game like that, and their names all over the place and the credits, So, in terms of the outfit health wise. See, here's the thing I don't get. There's two problems I've got with this. Okay, number one, they're not trying to profit off drugs. All right, but I mean, if they were so desperately interested in getting this game in the hands of people to prevent them from taking drugs, why were they charging for the game?
You know how much they were charging for this game? Aaron?
I don't know.
£30.
£30. Okay, so you're charging £30 for a game to prevent drug addiction? Well, that doesn't make any sense.
If you spent $30 on the game, you wouldn't have $30 to spend on drugs. It's brilliant.
You can see a bunch of people at HealthWise, a bunch of old people that sit around a table. It's like, we can't get through these kids. Like, what? And some old woman said, I hear these video games are a thing. And they're like, yeah, I've heard about that. What if we hire some young men to make us a game about the terrors of drugs? And that's how it all started. You know what I mean?
Well, let me tell you something. A lot of people highly question if this was
the result of drugs,
possibly. If this was to denounce drugs or to glorify drugs, and really that's the question at the heart of the whole debate when this game hit the media was, where does this lie? Now the whole opening of this game is talking about how drugs are bad, don't do drugs. It has the winners don't use drugs on there all the time. But like at the end, when you die, the game counts up how many times you did drugs, the street value of the drugs you did for the time when the game was made.
Yeah.
And goes, and that kind of glorifies it, right? I mean, that you kind of feel that's a high score type thing.
I can't even figure out whether they were getting free shrooms. Because those, that was unlikely.
And the game does say, you know, if you're caught using drugs, you could spend up to 7 years in prison, that kind of thing.
7?
Well, in 93 in Europe, I guess. I can see, although in some of those countries it's a lot worse than that.
How long can you spend in the morgue? You overdose on smack. The kid that game we're watching go through, the guy did 2 rounds of smack. He did heroin. You don't come back from that.
Now, I have some things to say about this.
No, go ahead. Here we go.
I think the concept of this game has some merit.
Oh, yeah?
It has some. I can actually see a game, a platforming game that tries to show the downside of drugs to teens, you know, low teens, mid-teens. I think that is something that you could do and you could do successfully. This did not do it successfully.
No.
Having to use the drugs to advance, it completely destroys the concept I feel that they were trying to do. I think that if done correctly, the premise of this game could be successful at discouraging or at least informing children about drugs, young adults.
The funny thing about this game is a conundrum, because it literally, if you could you could go through all different drugs, and there are, like I said, there are screens after screens of information on the drug, its harmful effects, how they make it, how people take it.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's something. I mean, So why did they put that in the game? Okay, because is this a game that's under the guise of a game that's trying to help you, but really they're just trying to glorify drugs? Or is this a game that's trying to walk the raggedy edge?
I think it's trying to walk the edge.
I think the guys that made it, they had an idea of what a game was going to be, and then they were like, okay, we got to satisfy these old fogies over at HealthWise. Let's put all this information here. Because, I mean, not only can you take the drugs, but you can stash the drugs. You can take them anytime, and you can build up your stash of drugs. You know, it is a mind-blowingly weird game. It doesn't make no sense. It absolutely makes no sense. You fulfilled the obligation of this category.
So yeah, that's our look at Wrecked. I think that this game did not get a fair shake.
What?
What? To the general public.
It didn't?
I know.
So you're glorifying this?
I would love to experience the full retailed Amiga release of this. Hopefully the controls are better.
What? Listen, I'm giving you a drug test immediately after the show, because you must be high. This was horrible.
Okay, it was really bad. It was.
This was horrible. It doesn't make no sense, and it's horrible.
That's okay.
We gotta get out of here. We're gonna get. I can feel YouTube shut this down. We're not even on there. For God's sakes, get out the wheel. Get it going. Good God. Jiminy Christmas with that. What do you got on the wheel this week, the Brent?
In our retro, we've got a little bit of Auric.
The Auric. Oh, bringing it back, eh?
And I believe the new piece is Calculator Game.
Oh, man. We've got the minefield. I'm looking at that wheel right now, and holy sweet Lord.
There's some tough stuff in there. I ain't gonna lie.
All right, give it the patented Brent spin. Here we go.
Never have you wanted burger games to come up so badly.
That's such a lame category. Yeah, thank you, Pixel. And the winner is, what we got?
We've got Apple II GS.
Oh, okay, good. Apple
Suggested by Buck Owens.
The Buckster. He's in the house tonight. Thank you, Buck. We're getting back to basics here, Brent.
I wonder if Rec got released with the Apple II GS. Oh,
God, no. The Apple II GS would not have that sort of thing on its system. So that'll be a lot of fun, the Brent. Apple II GS, getting back into it. been a couple weeks since we did an actual fact from computers. We're getting back into it. Good suggestion, Buck. Because listen, I'm no fan of Apple, as you know, but I've always heard that the 2GS was the king dong of Apple IIs. That's what
I will have to explore that next week.
Yeah, because I don't know. Do you know anything about the Apple IIGS? Have you ever played one? I know they go for a few buckaroos. You know what I mean? So,
see if you could get that wrecked money, you'd be good shape.
Hey, look, Super Takeaway asks if Apple IIGS got battle chats for you, Brent. You geek. What an idiot. You got anything you want to tell the people before we take this to the house tonight, Brent?
We have a new supporter video at the end, so stick around for that.
Yeah, that'll be nice. We want to talk about, I guess, a couple of things we can get into real quick. We've got a new channel on the Amigos network. If you would, I beseech you, please hop over to YouTube and subscribe to the Amigos Stream Team. It's 3 words, Amigos Stream Team. And what we're doing with this channel, it's going to be nothing but streaming content that we've done on like Twitch or done on YouTube that we've saved, including stuff that I never posted. Will be appearing on there. Stuff that I've had for years on the hard drive. Our buddy Jack Flack, Rob Flack O'Hare, will be putting his Sprite Castle shows and there's like a DOS streams on there. Our buddy Frodo NL, we're going to be moving all that stuff over to the Amigo Stream Team. Plus, you're going to get all the Friday Night Disaster streams that I do. In fact, I had a real fun one Friday when I played Retro Games of Steam. I went over and played the Chaos Reborn. That's a remake of the old Chaos on the ZX Spectrum. I played Wings Remastered, which is the remastered version of the classic CinemaWare game Wings for the Amiga. We played Super Frog HD. It's funny, Super Frog HD is a HD remake of Super Frog, but it's already almost 10 years old itself. So the remakes are now becoming classics. It's the darndest thing. So we had a good time over there. So it will, once again, the Amigos Stream Team. It should be a lot of fun. There'll be a lot of content coming over there, and we're trying to get people on board right away so they'll know what's going on. We should probably mention Boat Fest, Brent. The Boatster,
I got that handled in the old
closing
credits.
I heard that. So Boat Fest is coming up in June. If you're interested in doing a little Boat Fest action, we would love to have you here.
You can find out more at boatfest.info.
Boatfest.info is the place to go. It's going to be June 24th and June 25th. That's a Friday and Saturday. There's a full schedule that's been posted. Boy, we're going to be busy.
If you come, please don't get wrecked.
Yeah, no kidding. Because there's no way we can supply the amount of drugs that game does. There'll be caffeine and possibly nicotine. That's pretty much it. So if you get a chance, pop over to Boat Fest, the Brent.
Yes.
We should also mention, I don't know if we've ever mentioned this, but the show is now releasing on Wednesdays on the channel. So if you're wondering, hey, why does this take us so long? We're filming these on Sundays and releasing them on Wednesdays now. So
live Sunday on Twitch, released Wednesday on YouTube.
Yeah. So there you go. So aside from that, nothing else changes.
Please help us out. Give it a view. Give it a thumb. Hit the sub. All that garbage.
Check us out. Lastly, Brent, one last plug for your contest. The contest for Chez Maxim.
Yes.
The ZX version that the Happy Coding did. The high score of that gets a gift certificate from our buddy Frank at RetroRewind.ca. Please patronize Frank. He's a good guy over there, and he does good work. We'll be giving away a gift certificate from Frank to the high score winner. You've got until we'll call it next Sunday morning at 9 a.m. You've got that long. You can submit your high scores.
All you need is a screenshot.
Is via Discord. If you're on our Amigos Discord, and if you're not, come on. You can also email us at argpresents@mail.com. Also, I should mention, it's almost time for a new slate of wheel pieces.
Yes.
We would love for you to suggest what we do on the show. Send any wheel piece out, no matter how ludicrous, to argpresents@mail.com. That's argpresents@mail.com. Also send questions, comments. If you want to badmouth Brent, you can send those over, and we'll look at them, and we'll absolutely use them. I don't think we've ever turned down a pie piece, ever. I can't remember ever not doing one. And if you suggest the one and we never did it, and you're like, what's going on? Send it again, because we probably just missed it somehow. I think that's all we got, Brent. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Had a good crowd here in the chat. We appreciate you guys, and we will catch you guys on the flip side. Until next week, for God's sake, don't do drugs.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for joining us today. We really hope you enjoyed the show. A special thank you to Duncan Styles for our vector-style graphics and Bart Pitt for his amazing music. Would you like to help keep ARG spinning? You can do so at patreon.com/ARGpresents. Just like these fine folks. Rollo, Olaf Hope, Terry Howard, John Schaller, The Slow Norris, Frodo NL, Chris Folds, Mitsuyama, Jason Warnes, Rob Flack O'Hara, Andy Craig, Andy Jones, Kevin Bean, Pajaco 6502, Bitter Blitter, Anthony Jarvis, Steve Rasmussen, Bernhardt Lucas, Dave Velociraptor, Graham W. Vetke, Roshi, Mr. B, David Terrett, Super Tech Boy, Oram, Sundown, Texas Foosballer, Airshack, Retroalgy, John Dykeman, Jerry Dennington, Xenon-K9, Templar Mar, On Collective, and Laurent Garou. They all have access to the Amigos Retro Gaming Discord channel, their name displayed and called out in the credits, and that warm, fuzzy feeling that they help keep ARG spinning. And you can too! Have an idea for a wheel piece? Send it to us at argpresents@mail.com. Did you know? BoatFest 2022 is a go, the retro computing festival put on by the Amigos Retro Gaming Network. You can find out more at boatfest.info. We film live every Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and you can watch the replays on YouTube every Wednesday. Hope to see you there.